Welcome back. Let's bring you the latest on this. Mthokozisi Thwala continues to be cross-examined at the High Court in Pretoria. He is testifying at the murder trial of slain Bafana captain Senzo Meyiwa. He's given his account of what happened on the night that the star was killed. And eNCA's Moloko Moloto joins us now with the very latest, but also what we can expect in court today. Moloko, very warm good morning to you, colleague. I mean, we continue to see that cross-examination with Mthokozisi Thwala, but it seems yesterday might have gotten a bit offensive for Mthokozisi, especially when one of the legal representatives said he might not be taking this seriously. He might be taking, this whole court process and examination as a mere joke.
Oh yes, the defense lawyer, advocate Zitulele accused Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala of considering the death of his friend Senzo Meyiwa as a joke. And of course, Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala took offense at that. And that was because as the cross-examination was continuing with regard to the gun that was used by the gunmen who had intruded into the house, questions around that, you would recall that Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala had said that he cannot describe the type of a gun that he says he saw. However, the defense pointed to a statement that had been taken by one warrant officer, Steenkamp. She apparently interviewed several witnesses, including Mthokozisi Thwala himself, as well as Tumelo Madlala, shortly after the killing of Senzo Meyiwa. However, she interviewed them separately. Now, the defense pointed out to the statement that had been written or taken by Steenkamp, in which the statement is saying that Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala is saying that the gun that he saw was an old revolver. Now, Thwala said, I don't even know how a revolver looked like. Now, he was asked to say, explain this contradiction then in what you are saying and what the statement taken of you by the investigating officer. And he then said, Mr. Thwala, I'm aware as well that Mr. Madlala Tumelo, who was also present in the house and also a friend of Senzo's, he says, I'm aware that he was also asked this similar question here in court. And that's when the defense lawyer said, how do you know that that question was asked? This is important because, Tumelo, you'd be aware that apparently the witnesses should not necessarily be following proceedings, because there's a belief that if you hear what the witness that came before you, how they testified, chances are that you may alter your testimony. So then Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala said, I heard that in the news. And then when the defense lawyer persisted to say, do you say that you were following this proceeding? That man, Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala, then said, I don't know. And that really did not sit well with the defense lawyer. Hence, he said, you are taking this as a joke. Of course, we also heard of other contradictions that are likely to emerge here. According to Advocate Nxumalo, he expects that Kelly Khumalo, who apparently will at some point be called to testify here in court, she is going to place Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala right at the center of the alleged scuffle that happened in the house involving the gunmen and other people who were in the house. This is despite the fact that Mthokozisi Thwala himself has sought to distance himself from that scuffle, saying that he was just an observer until he managed to escape out of the house. We are expecting that today, when the court starts at 10 o'clock, Advocate Zandile Mshololo, who represents accused number 5, is going to be cross-examining Mr. Mthokozisi Thwala. And we know Mshololo to be combative in her nature when she does conduct this cross-examination. So it's not going to be easy for Mthokozisi Thwala today. Importantly, we must know that the defense job here is to destroy the testimony of the witnesses and also to discredit them, so that when the judge takes a decision, ultimately they would have done their work for their clients. But at this point in time, we know that this particular trial is certainly not ending anytime soon, because we understand there are many more witnesses that are going to be called onto the witness stand. Almost all of those who were present in the house, all of them including the two Khumalo sisters and their mother, but also Longe Thwala, who was there. At the time we were told that he was the boyfriend of Zandi Thwala, but also the neighbor who says he heard the gunshots coming from the Khumalo house. And we understand that obviously the experts will be called by the state to come and testify here as the trial continues.
All right, as it continues, we'll be sure to keep our viewers glued to the screen with those court proceedings, but also any updates for context purposes, colleague, with you being on the ground, following through with the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial. So that cross-examination continuing with Advocate Mshololo being one of the defense lawyers who will be on the stand with the witness, Mthokozisi Thwala.